Tories are saying they want to bring those people on a 30-hour week on a minimum wage out of tax. Well, I don't know anyone who actually works full-time who has a 30-hour week. I think we all have to work an awful lot more than that. I mean, one of the things that we're saying is that if you're working a 40-hour week, you're on minimum wage, we're going to raise that tax-free allowance an awful lot higher, so that those will have a personal tax-free allowance of £13,000, and also taking those on minimum wage out of tax altogether.
Yeah.
The other thing we'll do as well, we'll increase the transferable tax allowance for married couples to £1,500. For example, my wife is at home. There are ways in which there are other people within business who might say, well, actually, I'll employ my wife and get to use that tax allowance. I don't do that. Despite me being an employer and despite me being a business, I believe in paying my fair share of taxes. We'll also ensure that big corporations pay their fair share of tax. What we'll also do, though, is the fact that there is an incentive. If the higher you do tax people, the higher the incentive it comes for people to avoid them. So what we'll do, we'll raise the threshold of paying 40% tax to £55,000 and introduce a new intermediate rate of 30% between the earnings of £45,000 and £55,000. So there's a transferable rate, because otherwise, if you're on that lower rate and there's a massive jump, it scares a lot of people off and they will try and avoid it. So let's gradually move that up. But make sure, the big thing is that those big corporations pay their fair share of tax, and what we will do to ensure that happens, we'll set up a Treasury Commission to ensure that they can actually design a turnover tax. Because what these companies do, they'll say, right, let's go buy a load of supplies from our company in Switzerland, well, that cost us all of this, right, we're not actually making any profit in the UK, and then all of a sudden they don't end up paying their corporation tax. What we need to do is charge a turnover tax, so however millions they're doing, well, let's charge them a percentage of that and get that into back for the government to spend and invest here in Wales and in Caerphilly. Thank you. Is it wrong to want to have your own home? Is it wrong to want to get onto the housing ladder? The challenge is trying to work out a system which actually enables people to be able to step up onto that housing ladder. Now, people might be council tenants for quite some considerable amount of time and pay an awful lot towards that property. So that was the emphasis of Right to Buy, but what's actually happened then is when people have bought their homes, that the council have then used them for their own other agendas. Now, what we've said is that if we extend the Right to Buy, let's invest the money which goes in to build more houses to enable more people to be able to buy homes. Let's help those people get onto the housing ladder. Let's enable people to be out of having to rent again and again and again, or be dependent on the council. Let's get them out of that trap. Let's also build 2.5 million homes on brownfield sites. There are brownfield sites all across the country. The biggest problem is for developers that they don't know where they are, where they're available. So what we're going to do is then actually have a brownfield map across Britain, which will then also put in tax incentives and other incentives to enable developers to build on brownfield sites and not greenfield sites. We heard also that there are people who might be opposed to developing on these greenfield sites, but when we look at the Caerphilly Council minutes, we see that unanimously there were Labour and Plaid councillors who voted for the first draft of the local development plan, which included the development on greenfield spaces. And although we only have one UKIP councillor in Caerphilly, I know wholeheartedly that 100% of our councillors are opposed to the development on those green spaces. At least we know where we stand.
Yeah.
Conservatives are the only party that will deliver that referendum in 2017. Labour and the left socialist parties don't want a referendum, and UKIP can't deliver one. We are the party that will deliver an EU referendum in 2017.
It's not value for money. I'm really grateful you raised that question, and thank you for it. It is a massive, massive cost, us being in the European Union. Those net contributions, we can be investing that money here in Wales. We can be solving the issues here in Caerphilly. We can be investing things more here. They talk about an in-out referendum. Well, there was a promise of renegotiation at the last election with the Conservatives. Where's that renegotiation actually happened? It should have happened already. It hasn't happened. It won't happen with the Tories. It won't happen with anyone. We are the party that will deliver a referendum for you, to allow you, the people, to decide. And I will support, and I will be pledging my vote to actually leave the European Union and stop the millions and millions of pounds a day we are losing to give to Europe when we can invest in it here in the UK. Thank you. Really quickly, In regards to nationalisation of the railways here in Wales, it is my personal view that I would actually support us actually not renewing the franchise with Retrains Wales and actually put that into public management. You look at the River Trains Wales, it's a German-owned company, money's going straight over to the German railways. Why should our train fares be, and the profits being, and our subsidies from taxpayers here being going to invest into fares in Germany? I don't think that's right. So yes, I do believe here in Wales, let's nationalise those. But one of the things is the cost on this as well, is the fact that there is £80 billion, there's a massive white elephant in the room over railways at the moment, £80 billion of the cost of high speed 2. It will save around about sort of 15-20 minutes for those people who can afford to travel on train between London and Birmingham or London and Leeds and all that sort of stuff. It's not going to help Wales, it's not going to help the people here. Let's electrify the railways, but let's invest in railways across the country, not have some little luxury line for all those little Londoners to enjoy.
Yeah.
Does the Conservative candidate support the view that in order to protect the health service, we should cut education and school spending by 20% in terms of the Welsh Government?
No, I certainly don't. I think you should protect the Welsh NHS by investing in the Welsh NHS in accordance with the funds provided by Westminster.
Well, we've done that.
You have cut spending on the Welsh NHS by 3% over the last 3 years. And in fact, even if you hadn't, the outcomes that have been demonstrated would be completely unacceptable. 1 in 7 on the waiting list, no cancer drugs fund. So we lay this charge fairly and squarely at the Labour door. Your performance on the NHS in Wales has been derisory, and frankly, you will be held accountable for the Assembly elections next year. Vote Conservative in the Assembly elections.
Yeah, Dr. IS is not here, so let's give the raise your hands. We're going to vote the Democrats.
Shouldn't it be a secret ballot though?
Not in this case, not in a Hustings. Not in a Hustings.
So how many people are going to vote the Liberal Democrat Party?
I can't see anyone.
Okay. So we've got one vote on behalf of Dr. IS.
Yes, one vote on
Next on behalf of the Green Party, Katie Beggle.
This is an indicative vote of the meeting. So,
It's not a democratic.
Of course it's not.
this is a Hustings.
Could I suggest it'd be better not to have a vote?
No, whoever doesn't want to have a vote, meaning vote, but to make it in a Hustings. Right. Fine, carry on.
All right, let's go. Let's go. We're going to debate.